Yeah, man. It's. They don't care. If you want to vote against something, you can think of a fucking reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Hey, good to see you.
Take care, man.
All right. Yeah, okay.
Don't be sorry.
First name's Tim, T-I-M. Last name is Hauser, H-A-U-S-E-R.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ohio. I live in Ohio.
Lost a lot
Where?
of friends.
Oh, I'm from Twinsburg, actually. Yeah. I grew up in Huron, right next to Cedar Point.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
He sort of found his peace by helping out. He was sort of writing to Chelsea what he did overseas. Try to help people.
Yeah, you served as well.
I did.
Okay.
I was actually exposed to God knows why I stand to Djibouti. So that's sort of how I got it.
Yeah. Just as a lot of emotion, you know what I mean?
I've been right in Congress for 8 years. Been progressively more involved as I served. Yeah, buddy. So with Kentucky, let's go see it.
I know. Next time. A portable one? I mean, no, but I'm thinking like, it's kind of a hard location.
Hey, we might have to move some of your stuff, maybe. Or get a little
He's
closer.
with the press.
Get in.
Yeah.
Hi, Senator.
Frustrating day.
Yes.
Can you put me after
Absolutely.
you?
Thanks for doing it.
Or before you?
I'll put you
yeah,
before
put
you.
me after Court. So
Okay.
you can introduce John. There you go.
How do you spell your last
Candace,
name?
C-A-
No, but your last name.
Wheeler,
Wheeler. Okay.
Miss Candace.
You know what happened, Candace?
Wheeler.
Even ones that are veterans themselves.
Yeah, we gotta get
can say
over
that.
this. Yeah. Shit. 11th hour, fully
Usually just write our
hours.
names and we'll leave this.
It makes no sense.
I've done that.
Maybe they, I don't know.
Senator Chester, you're first.
We gotta get going.
Yeah, you can
wanna
start.
go?
You're first.
All right.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you. You want to introduce it?
How you doing? First of all, I just want to say I want to start by thanking the folks who are here that have served, the folks that are here that are representing the people who have served, the families of the folks that are here of the people who have served. On June 16th, we passed the PACT Act in the United States Senate. Not by a small margin. We passed it with 84 positive votes. We'd had 86, but 2 people were left that said they were going to vote for it, and I'll take them at the word then. That bill went over to the House, and there was a de minimis mistake that was made, by the way, which should have been caught long before, and not my staff's fault. And so it had to come back and be redone again. And that's when Senator Toomey brought up this thing that he calls a gimmick, which, by the way, is what the Appropriations Committee is supposed to do when issues come up on veterans. The Appropriations Committee should be able to address those issues. He wants to stop that from happening. And while we have, and I'm going to say Republicans because they're the ones that flip, Republicans say, you know what, I don't have a problem with the cost of this bill, but I'm going to vote no because of some other reason whatsoever. That is political malpractice, and we need to hold people accountable. I'm going to tell you something. I've been in this business for 25 years between the state legislature and here, and I have never seen anything that's happened like happened yesterday. And what compounds it and what makes it that much more difficult is we, in essence, yesterday took benefits away from the people who have been impacted by war, that we sent off to war, and we turn our backs and say, no. We're going to find an excuse to vote against our veterans while we wave the flag, talking about how great our fighting men and women are. So what's the path forward? The path forward is we need to hold people accountable.
Yes.
There are promises that were made. We heard them at the last press conference that was made, and I heard them from fellow senators, by the way, that said that the people in this group made a lot of phone calls right before that June 16th vote. And we are going to back our commitment. Well, yesterday, they forgot what the commitment was. Funny what a month and a half will do. So we've got to get out. We've got to call. We got to have your friends in the military and veterans call. We got to have your civilian friends call, because what happened yesterday is totally unacceptable. Unacceptable. And I can guarantee you this. I've been here long enough to know that if you want to find a reason to vote against a bill, you can. But the truth is, what happened yesterday is they voted against the men and women who fight for this country, that want to return back to civilian life and have a normal life. And not only those folks, but their families.
Yeah.
We've got some work to do, and we've got to do it very soon. We've got to be very proactive, and we've got to burn some shoe leather, folks. We've got to burn up some phone lines. We got to go out and make people uncomfortable and hold them accountable for what they promised to do and what they actually did do on June 16th. If we're able to do that, we can right this ship. If we aren't, then once again, our veterans are going to have to go to the VA, and they're going to have to beg, and they're going to have to argue, and they're going to have to fight for benefits that they've already earned. Took them 25 years. 25 years. Now, look, there are so many. I said on the floor of the Senate yesterday, I said, this delay might not sound like a big thing, but number one, we don't have the bill passed, and number two, there are going to be veterans die between now and when this bill passes.
Yeah.
And this is a piece of legislation, by the way, that everybody thought on June 16th was a done deal.
Yep.
We got to work. We got to work, folks. We got to double down. We got to work. And you guys have already worked really, really hard. You have. You shouldn't have to do this again. But it's a necessity, and I apologize for the dysfunction. But if we're able to step up, I think we can right this ship. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. I am not a partisan person. I am somebody who believes that both sides of the aisle have to work together, and I want to thank those Republicans that stuck with us yesterday. And I called many of them and thanked them for it, because I appreciate it. Their word is their bond, which is the way I was raised. The rest of them need to be talked to. Senator Gillibrand.
Well, I agree with Senator Tester. This is total bullshit. This is the worst form of over-politicization I've literally ever seen. This is total BS. We had the votes. We had strong bipartisan support for this bill. And at the 11th hour, Senator Toomey decides that he wants to rewrite the bill, change the rules, and tank it. How he convinced 25 of his colleagues to change their vote, I have no idea. I mean, what the hell? How does this happen? How do you change your mind right when you're about to make a law that's going to save lives? It makes no sense. It's an outrage, and there has to be accountability. So we have to go to these 25 offices. We have to make sure every one of these senators understands that they have just sentenced veterans to death because they will not have the health care that they have earned. They have put their politics before the life and well-being of service members who have given everything to this country. For what? For what? For some political stunt? For some BS? What is it? What did they do it for, and why did they do it? It makes no sense. They put politics before the lives of our families, our loved ones, our service members, our veterans who have given every last measure. There's no excuse. It's total BS. Representative Taco. Congressman. Oh, Speaker Pelosi's not here. Go ahead. Yeah.
I am Congressman Mark Takano. I chair the Veterans Affairs Committee in the House of Representatives. Earlier this month, the House once again passed my honoring our PACT Act, and I hope that today the Senate would take final actions needed to get this bill to the president. Instead, we are standing here empty-handed because of the incomprehensible actions of Republican senators who, yet again, have allowed naked partisanship and political gamesmanship to deny our veterans the care they deserve. 34 Republicans originally voted with all of the Democrats in the House to get this bill over to the Senate. I want to thank those 34 Republicans because they gave us the momentum to get an 84 vote passage in the Senate. Frankly, this bill should have passed the House unanimously the first time, and it should have passed unanimously in the Senate. That is how fundamental this issue of taking care of our veterans is. It should have been a unanimous vote. But it was remarkable that we got what we got. The same senator who held up the PACT Act a few weeks ago has yet again stood in the way. He has done this despite knowing of the 3.5 million veterans this would help, knowing the veteran sacrifice behind it, and the blood, sweat, and tears shed by the veteran community to finally get this done. He claims that this bill has a slush fund, but this is absolutely not true. We have a fund that will allow us to pay for the cost of war. This fund comes with all of the other safeguards of the appropriations process and congressional oversight. This fund allows us not to pit Americans against Americans in a struggle of winners and losers. This fund allows us to take care of veterans while also ensuring kids can eat, and we have older Americans in need. There is no question as to where Democrats stand on prioritizing America's veterans. Every single Democratic member of the House voted to support this legislation, to put people over politics. We have backed up our words with concrete action. Finally, I have to agree with what Jon Stewart said last night. You don't get to pander to service members and veterans about how you represent them and then turn around and stab them in the back. Veterans are tired of patriotic platitudes and hollow expressions of thank you for your service. This is bullshit. America's veterans have demanded action. Instead, they have got a bunch of Senate Republicans hiding behind hollow arguments about fiscal responsibility as the reason to oppose this bill, when the moral responsibility of caring for veterans has been made crystal clear. This bill gives the mechanism to finally pay for the true cost of war, the human cost of war. And for years, toxic exposed veterans have held up their end of the deal. And I guess for some Senate Republicans, that's just not enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Takano, and thank you for your leadership. I'm Congressman Dr. Raul Ruiz, and I represent California's 36th Congressional District. I'm an emergency medicine physician, public health expert, and co-chair of the bipartisan, bicameral Congressional Burn Pits Caucus. I want to thank all the VSOs, all the incredible veterans and the families who are joining us here today, because you are the reason why we are here, and you are the reason why we fight. Standing here today, I have to say I'm pretty pissed off. In fact, I'm livid. We have a chance right now to make a monumental change in the lives of our servicemen and women, and partisan gamemanship is getting in the way. This is exactly the type of bullshit that disgusts me about this place. The Honoring Our Pact is a bipartisan bill. We passed it out of the House 3 times with bipartisan support. And the last time we had to pass it because of a blue sip error from the Senate. We fixed it, sent it back, pretty much the same bill. And so now we are here again demanding for a passage in the Senate. Demanding for Senate Republicans to put politics aside, to stop playing games, and to get sick and dying veterans the benefits and care that they have earned, deserve, and so desperately need. Enough is enough. Our veterans don't have the time for this bill to go back and forth again and again. They don't have time for technical errors, partisan games, and needless filibustering. They need the presumptive benefits in the Honoring Our Pact Act right now. Their lives are quite literally on the line. And I will not stand by and watch as burn pits exposed veterans in my district and across the country are denied the care they need because of some in the Senate didn't get their way. It needs to stop. And I will continue to fight tooth and nail until it gets done. I will continue to fight in memory of Jennifer Kepner from Cathedral City, who died from pancreatic cancer because of her burn pit exposure in Iraq. I will continue to fight for veterans like Alejandro Camacho from Palm Desert, who developed testicular cancer caused by his exposure during his service overseas. And I will continue to fight for the millions of veterans across the country who have been exposed to burn pits and other toxins until they get the care they need. The fight for our burn pits exposed veterans is not over. For years, I have helped lead the charge on this front, and I'm not giving up. We are not giving up. Not now, not ever. And I will keep pushing for the presumptive benefits that are at the heart and soul of this bill to take the burden off of our dying veterans to prove that they are sick as a result of their service. And I will continue pushing until we get this legislation signed into law. Our nation's veterans would never turn their back on their country, and we cannot turn our backs on them. So again, enough is enough. Let's put politics aside and let's get this done for our veterans. And so now I'm going to turn it over to our Speaker, Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you, Raul Ruiz, for your very passionate and very well-informed comments about how we have to meet the needs of our veterans. The other day, within this past week, we had a meeting of our veteran service organizations. We were talking about what comes next, but we did consider it a mini celebration in anticipation that the PACT Act would pass the Senate. It is bipartisan. The Senate has worked its will on the legislation, and we passed that version under leadership of Mark Takano. Where's Mark? Is Mark here? He's our chairman of our Veterans Committee. He was so responsible for the legislation. Raul Ruiz, as a physician, as a public health expert, and as a doctor member of Congress, has been on this issue for a long time. And of course, the Camp Lejeune water issue that Matt Cartwright took part. Senator Tester's leadership was so important, and I'm so pleased that both he and the ranking member, Moran, voted for the legislation. But I'm very sad that 80% of the Republicans in the United States Senate said no to veterans yesterday. 80%. 40 votes no. The veterans have waited too long, long overdue. 3.5 million veterans will benefit, have the possibility of benefiting from this legislation. Why subject them to this? Democrats, at the same time yesterday, we were having our rollout of people over politics. And when it comes to our veterans, we have always striven to work in a bipartisan way. We think we owe that to them and try to find the most common bipartisan ground. So this is very, very disappointing. It's hard to explain. It has an immorality to it that 80% of the Republicans would say no to our veterans. Defying what we say. On the battlefield, we leave no soldier behind, and when they come home, we leave no veteran behind. So I thank all of you, because inside maneuvering can just take us so far. The outside mobilization has been essential to our getting to where we thought we were at the beginning of yesterday. I thank Jon Stewart, John Field. Where is John? Both of our Johns here?
I'm over here.
You're over there.
Yeah, John can make it.
Give him my love.
I will.
Okay. But, I mean, we all share the dismay at all of this. It's a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity. It's hard to explain. But we will not stop until we get the job done. I don't know what we can do to convince the Republicans to do the right thing, except public opinion weighing in. We know what happened, you have to say to them. Why did you abandon our veterans, come home, so that when they come home, we leave no veteran behind. With that, I'm very pleased to yield.
Senator Brown.
To Senator Brown, and thank you so much. I spoke to Leader Schumer on my way here. That, of course, we're all in getting so much done as we prepare for what comes next. Sherrod Brown has been a champion on this issue, a proclaimed leader on it. I thank you. I thank Senator Tester, and now I welcome Sherrod Brown as a leader for our veterans to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's always an honor to be on the same platform with Speaker Pelosi, the greatest speaker in the history of this institution. So thanks, Dr. Rose. Thank you. Senator Gillibrand, Congresswoman Luria, Dr. Shulkin, Congressman Takano, thank you. 5 years ago, Susan came to me. Susan lives in Northern Ohio on behalf of her son-in-law, who was suffering from illness from the burn pits. And Susan has been joined by her daughter and her granddaughter at rally after rally. Susan came to this today expecting us to celebrate the final passage and the bill on the way to the President of the United States. And she fully expected that. We all fully expected that until a few hours ago, till late yesterday, when for whatever reason, Republicans decided that their political calculations and their politics are more important than what we do for this nation's veterans. And think about what this is. When Heath Robinson, after whom this bill's named, when Heath Robinson went to serve this country, he took an oath to protect this country. We, some ways, Dr. Ruiz and Speaker Pelosi, you know this, we take an oath to welcome them home and to provide for them when they're home. And we know this exposure to burn pits, the cancers and the bronchial diseases and all that come from this. We know their lives are at risk, their health is at risk. We were this close. It's been more than 5 years. 5 years since she and I talked, and she got me on board this, and joined by Senator Tester and Gillibrand and so many others, and Speaker Pelosi. And it's time we do this. And every day we wait are more soldiers and more Marines and more people coming home and not getting the health care that they have. Think back to Agent Orange, that they had to prove each case and beg the VA to take care of them and say, well, my illness was caused by Agent Orange, or my illness was caused by my exposure to burn pits. No, they shouldn't have to do that, and that's what this bill is all about. And I would close with this, and I know that Senator Gillibrand is absolutely on board with this, and all of us, that we stay here, and her granddaughter is here. Good to see you.
Heath's daughter.
So, Heath's daughter. And I'll close with this, that the Senate's expected or scheduled to go home after next week to go to do our things in the state and in our districts. We don't leave here. We stay until this is done. As long as Republicans keep trying to block this, we stay here. We keep meeting. It doesn't matter how hot it is here. It doesn't matter the pressure. We've got to get this done. And my commitment, and I know Senator Tester's and Senator Gillibrand and Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer, is to stay until the Heath Robinson PACT Act is concluded, until veterans are assured they're going to be taken care of if they were exposed to these burn pits. Thank you, Kristen.
Hi, I'm David Shulkin, the former Secretary of the VA. I just have to say that I thought I was coming with a different set of comments. I thought we were finally going to recognize the end of a long, long injustice for our veterans. But when I see the men and women that are here today, and I hear from so many veterans all the time who continue to suffer, all that we can say is that they're going to need to continue to wait. The irony is about today, we actually shouldn't need Congress to have to step in and do legislation to fix this. The disability system that we have in this country for our veterans is broken. It's actually backwards. We make our veterans wait until data is developed, scientific data to prove outcomes. And as we all know, science takes a long time. It's hard to get this data, yet we make our veterans wait. When we need our military, our men and women, to respond in a situation, they don't wait. They don't say, I want to study the geographic political situation before they respond. They're there for us. They put their lives on the line. They fight for us, and we are going to continue to fight for them till this injustice is finally fixed, until our men and women get the service and benefits that they deserve. And we're going to be there until that happens. Thank you.
Bob. Carey. Is Bob here? Bob Carey, Independence Fund.
Thank you very much, Senator. And we echo what Senator Brown just said. The Independence Fund is a veteran service organization that helps combat veterans, catastrophically wounded veterans, their families, and their caregivers. And that's who's being harmed here. People tell us, oh, we can get this passed in September or during lame duck. When you have cancer, when you are sick, a month, 2 months is a lifetime, both figuratively and possibly literally. We've got to pass this now. Stay in session. Stay all night. We'll bring coffee and donuts tomorrow morning. Stay all weekend. I'll ask the Capitol Hill Police to turn a blind eye while I cook hamburgers and hot dogs. Stay here. I didn't get the chance to go home when I was getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning for the Reveille watch on my ship. I didn't get the chance to go home when my sister passed away, my sister-in-law passed away. I did not get to go home when I had the opportunity to even help my sick mom. I could not. Why they think they can go home now is beyond me. Stay in session. Stay and get it done. This doesn't end today. We will continue this fight. Many great VSOs have done this for far longer than I've been working on this, and I'm proud to be amongst them. But we need to get this done, and we need to get this done now. Thank you.
Christina Keenan, Veterans of Foreign Wars.
My name is Christina Keenan, and on behalf of the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, I want to express our disappointment in the failed procedural vote by the Senate yesterday, which has again delayed passage of the Honoring Our PACT Act. Nothing has changed since June 16th, when 84 senators voted to pass the PACT Act in a bipartisan manner. Yet, yesterday, 25 senators changed their votes, even though the bill is the same. They voted yes last month. Promises were made and promises were broken. Senators Cotton, Ernst, Sullivan are veterans, and they are delaying health care for some of the men and women that they served with. The VFW has been clear. Pass the PACT Act now. No senator should leave for the August recess for their vacations or their campaigns until the PACT Act has passed. The House has done its job. No senator should leave next week until they take care of the people who fought to defend this country. No more delays. Pass the PACT Act now.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lawrence Montreal, American Legion.
Good morning. My name is Lawrence Montreal. I'm the National Legislative Director for the American Legion. And on behalf of the American Legion and our nearly 2 million members, I would like to emphasize the fact that this delay is absolutely unacceptable. A bill that passed the House of Representatives 3 times. It passed the Senate with wide-ranging bipartisan support, 84 senators voting in favor of it, will be delayed once again, and as a result, veterans will suffer. The bill's genesis came from the fact that 70% of veterans with illnesses related to burn pits were being denied, and as a result, couldn't access health care. Sick veterans couldn't meet the burden of proof. The PACT Act passed the House and the Senate in a bipartisan manner, yet this delay continues because of political games. There is no reason this bill should not be signed by the president by the end of next week. Every day that this delay goes on, veterans are unable to receive care. This is wrong. We will not stand by and allow veterans to be denied their duly owed health care. For cancer patients, a 1-month delay makes all the difference. The American Legion demands that Congress end this delay and allow our veterans to receive the health care they desperately need and have earned.
Thank you, Lawrence. Tom Porter, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans.
Thank you. I'm Tom Porter with Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. A lot of us here often talk about how long we've been working on this issue that impacts more than 3-4 million veterans in the United States. But that's not really what's most important, because what's most important is the impact of the delays on this whole process. And we're up close and personal on this, and we see the direct impacts. So often we're here with friends of ours, like my friends here, that need help breathing because of their illnesses from their deployments. That's a real picture of the impacts of this. But then there are also people that aren't here with us anymore. I can remember a little over a year ago, Wesley Black was one of our advocates on this stuff. He would do TV and he would come to the Hill. And then there was one press conference that we showed up with Senator Gillibrand, and then he wasn't there because he was too sick. And then he died shortly after that. We lost Wes along the way. And then there's Kate Hendricks Thomas that had been an advocate on this bill as well. And then a few months ago, she just wasn't able to make the press conference. And her friend Mindy, that's back here too, that's with us, and she's here to tell her story because Kate died and left behind a little boy. And then we're also joined here by the namesake of this bill, Heath Robinson, his mother, and his little daughter, Brielle, who many of you have met. She's 9 years old. The last time we were here working the Hill together, just a few weeks ago, Brielle and Susan were walking the hallways with me, stopping into every Senate office. That day, we visited every Senate office in a single day. And 9-year-old Brielle, in the name of her father, wrote out personal requests for senators' votes in crayon and personally handed them to staff. Now, the problem with all this, there's a lot of problems with all this, is the big problem that I see right now is that last night, 41 senators ignored the pleas of veterans of all generations and their kids that were asking for their votes and voted no. And I guess what kind of bothers me a bit more, and you've heard it already, is 25 of those senators voted yes on this bill before they voted against it. No explanation. For the same bill, and they voted against it. And Christina said there's several of them that are veterans. That's especially bad. How can fellow veterans turn their backs and stab us in the back like that? You know, there's a friend of mine that does a radio show, Joe Griffey's, and he often asks me, checks it all the time, how's this bill going? How's this bill going? And I tried to explain to him last night about what happened, about the cloture process and why they would vote whichever way. And he says, Tom, why is it that the veteran is always the one that gets screwed? Why is it? And that's the thing, is that everybody doesn't understand all these intricacies about party politics and cloture votes. They just want to know why veterans get screwed. So I guess we have a lot in common that we already knew we had in common, but Vietnam veterans, Gulf War veterans, post 9/11 veterans, what we all have in common today is we just got screwed by 41 senators and 25 who voted with us. And many of them issued press releases after their last vote bragging about how they voted for the PACT Act and how they had veterans' backs. Well, you just screwed veterans yesterday. Now, we're going to hold them accountable. We need all of you to help out, too. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Alec Murawski, Wounded Warrior Project.
I'm Alex Murawski with Wounded Warrior Project. Here we are again. We were hoping to be standing here on the verge of seeing this bill, the PACT Act, passed by the Senate later today and becoming law. But that's not the case. Back in June, this bill passed with a decisive 84-14 vote. Yesterday, 25 of those 84 senators changed their vote to no on a virtually identical bill. Why'd they do that? We don't know. What we do know is that what they chose to do is extend a timetable that veterans with toxic wounds don't have. What we also know is that veterans died during this past month since the last vote, and now more veterans are going to die because of the vote yesterday. We just lost another warrior last week. He served around burn pits in Afghanistan, and he had pancreatic cancer. People in their mid-30s are not supposed to have pancreatic cancer. We were passing the condolence card around our office this week to his family. He died before this bill could be passed. How many more is it going to take? And if the Senate goes home before this gets passed, how many more? We make a promise to people who serve in the military that we'll support them if they get wounded. Passing the PACT Act today would have finally kept that promise for veterans with toxic wounds. But instead, that promise is still being broken. So, in our view, the Senate should pass this bill without amendment, which would only send it back to the House and create further delays. And the Senate should do this before they go home for August recess, because sick veterans can't wait any longer. No more excuses, no more delays, no more broken promises. Pass the PACT Act now.
Agreed. Next speaker, Corey Titus, Military Officers Association of America.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for everybody for being here today. 84-14. That is the vote we got a month ago on this bill. 25 senators changed their position on caring for toxic exposed veterans. This bill would have benefited 3.5 million veterans who have been put on the fast track for getting their wounds, their care and benefits they needed. But yesterday, every single veteran and every single member of their families felt the floor fall out from underneath them. Veterans are angry and confused at the sudden change from those they thought that had their backs. The following are statements from senators who voted for the PACT Act in June, but against it yesterday. Here's what they had to say in June. As we work to ensure our nation's military is provided for, it is also vitally important that our veterans receive the care and benefits they have rightfully earned. Another senator said, our veterans sacrificed so much to protect our freedoms and keep us safe. I was proud to vote for the PACT Act today, which provides critical funding and support for those exposed to toxic environments like burn pits during service. Senators, the bill didn't change. Is caring for veterans no longer vital? Why are you no longer proud to vote for the PACT Act? You said that you wanted to see this bill signed into law. Why did you help block it? Sadly, veterans and VSOs have been here before. Our veterans call on our nation to help for our wounds of war, and certain lawmakers delay it while we die. We will do what we have always done in this situation. We will regroup, rally together, and fight back together to get this bill over the finish line. Our service has taught us to work as a team, and our service has fortified our resolve to never quit and never leave a fallen comrade. We will abide by that ethos, and we will charge forward together to get the PACT Act passed. Everybody needs to call, write, and visit their senators' offices. The Senate should not go home until this bill is passed. Thank you.
Next speaker is Candace Wheeler at TAPS.
As the leading voice for the families of those who died as a result of illnesses connected to toxic exposure, and a founding member of the Toxic Exposure in the American Military Coalition, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors is grateful to Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, Chairman Tester, Ranking Member Moran, Speaker Pelosi, Chairman Takano, and Ranking Member Bost, and many others for their leadership on the PACT Act. Like everyone here, we watched the Senate cloture vote yesterday in disbelief. Our veterans deserve better. Their families, caregivers, and survivors deserve better. We urge the Senate to pass this historic legislation without further delay. It is our nation's moral obligation to care for our veterans and their survivors. Every day the PACT Act is delayed is precious time lost for our veterans suffering from the effects of toxic exposure. For some, it will be the difference between early cancer detection and stage 4 inoperable cancer. The Senate must act now, stay in session, and not go on vacation. They must pass the PACT Act now because every day matters. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rosie Torres, Burn Pits 360.
For 13 years, we've come to our nation's capital with the hope and faith that those we elected into office would fulfill their moral obligation. We organized, we mobilized, we even called on Jon Stewart and John Field. Together, with those sick and dying, we marched the halls of Congress with their children, with their families, Yesterday, 25 villains, along with Senator Toomey, voted to kill a bill that would provide health care and compensation to several generations of veterans. We've sat here and discussed how many people flipped their vote. What about we pay attention to those that are sick and dying? What about we pay attention to those that are putting a gun to their head because Congress and these senators have screwed them so badly? It's bullshit, and it's time for us to pass the PACT Act. No more delays, no more delay tactics. Our veterans are sick and dying, but one thing they will not do is give in to your bullshit tactics. We demand answers. We deserve justice. Let's get one thing straight. We will organize at every one of your district offices. Veterans were not trained to give up. They were trained to fight. We will mobilize our veteran community, and we will mobilize America. Senator Toomey, how many veterans are going to die without their treatment because of you and other senators who voted no? Please explain to us what is an acceptable amount of death.
Next speaker is Jon Stewart. Come on up, honey.
Hi. I'm Susan Zire. I'm the mother-in-law of the late Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, the namesake of the honoring our PACT Act. I've been wearing his Army jacket for almost 5 years, carrying him on my shoulders because he couldn't lobby with me. He couldn't stand up for himself because he was too sick. Now I'm going to take you on a little journey of what these reprehensible senators voted for. Heath was diagnosed with a rare form of lung cancer in 2017. 6 months prior to that, he ran a half marathon. He was an active duty member of the Ohio Army National Guard because he was employed by the National Guard. In 2012 and 2013, Heath was the Ohio Army National Guard NCO Soldier of the Year. When that happened, he had all of his politicians. Congresswoman Joyce Beatty flew a flag over the Capitol in his honor for being Soldier of the Year. The current Director of Veteran Services in Ohio, General Deborah Ashenhurst, had him at her house for a party to honor him. On May 6th, 2020, when he died, the only politician we heard from was Senator Sherrod Brown. Nobody from the Ohio Army National Guard has even reached out to my daughter or my family or his daughter. Now I'm going to tell you something that I've never told before. People here do not know. Heath was not our family's only casualty. In late 2015, my daughter learned she was pregnant around Valentine's Day. This was a year before we knew Heath had been exposed to toxins. Several weeks after her positive pregnancy test, there was no heartbeat. Because they had TRICARE insurance, TRICARE forced her to miscarry naturally. 6 weeks later, Danielle had not miscarried. She carried a non-viable little fetus through Christmas, through New Year's, until her obstetrician, after I begged her obstetrician to do the DNC, that I would pay for it if TRICARE wouldn't pay for it. Finally, they paid for it. After it happened, her obstetrician told her and Heath, I advise you to not get pregnant again. This is 3 years after this little one was born. She told them there is something seriously genetically wrong with one of you. What we removed surgically did not even resemble anything human. Now, we didn't know about burn pits and the toxic exposures till a year later. But you could pay me $1 million right now to ask me to say that did not affect my second grandchild from being so deformed they didn't even know what they had. A year later, Heath is diagnosed with lung cancer and a rare autoimmune disease. He was still active duty, so the TRICARE, everything was good. After they medically retired him and he went into the VA system, everything went to hell. The VA denied him prescription drug medication to mitigate extremely painful side effects from his cancer treatments. These victims have side effects. They have symptoms that no other cancer patients have. These doctors, they send them from hospital to hospital all around Columbus, Ohio, because they didn't know what to do with them. When he was discharged from the hospital, the VA denied to fill that prescription. My daughter is a doctor of physical therapy. She had a full-time job taking care of a young child and a 24-hour care of her sick and dying husband. I moved in with them for the last 10 months of his life to help. They applied for VA caregiver benefits so that Danielle could take a leave from work and be compensated to care for her soldier, Iraq War veteran husband. The VA denied the benefit, even though the nurse who came and did the evaluation said he was the highest level of needing caregiver round the clock. They denied it, and the reason they said it was denied, because he could not prove it was burn pit or combat related. So, in the month ensuing, after the VA denied his prescription medication and he was in such extreme pain, my daughter, totally exhausted, no sleep for days, I'm picking her up off the floor where she's collapsing in front of her child on the floor in exhaustion. I'm laying on the floor trying to comfort her. Heath is over on the sofa, puking and a bloody nose and coughing. And I'm trying to take care of two people at once, which is virtually impossible. So Heath asked my daughter and I to overdose him because he wanted to put us out of our suffering. He felt guilty because he caused us to suffer, and he didn't want to do it anymore. He begged us for 2 months to do this. That meant neither she or I could ever leave him alone for 1 minute for those 2 months. And I'm telling you right now, Senator Toomey, Senator Rob Portman was Heath's senator. Voted no. They voted against my family. They voted for all of us to suffer. They are endorsing our suffering. They are endorsing her suffering. They're endorsing Tim's suffering. They're endorsing Kevin's suffering. They're endorsing Rosie and her husband's suffering. They don't give a shit about veterans. And like someone said before, every single one has pictures with veterans on their Facebook pages, on their websites. Well, screw that. They don't support veterans. If you vote no on this bill, you do not support veterans. The burden of proof is on these veterans to prove it was combat related. So we couldn't hold up that burden of proof while Heath was alive. So after he died, with the help of Dr. Robert Miller from Vanderbilt University, he coordinated a lung autopsy for us. Now I'm going to tell you what this lung autopsy showed, and you tell me, Senator Toomey, Senator Rob Portman, if you think Heath's lung cancer was caused by toxic exposure. We know he had lung cancer. He also possibly had constrictive bronchiolitis, definitely an interstitial lung disease, that they could not fully define because his lung tissue was so obliterated by the cancer. He had pulmonary fibrosis that we did not know about. He had deformed blood vessels. He had cells in his lungs that no pathologist could identify. But his lung cancer was not caused by him inhaling toxic burn pit smoke. And I have one more thing to say about Senator Mike Lee. A few days ago, when they were bringing this debate up on the Senate floor, we were all watching to hear some discussion about the PACT Act. Senator Mike Lee got up and gave a very passionate plea to every single one of his Senate colleagues. He told a story about a Navy seaman who's based in Iraq who was in a car accident. He had a health episode and he passed out while he was driving, and unfortunately, 2 people in another car were killed. So the Japanese justice system decided he needed to be arrested and incarcerated. A couple days ago, he turned himself in to be incarcerated for a year for causing the death of 2 Japanese. That was an accident because he had a health problem. Now, Senator Mike Lee was urging all these senators to get together and get this guy out of prison because he's unjustly incarcerated. And then he told these senators, we need to show our veterans and our military that we have their backs. Well, he doesn't have their backs. He picks and chooses which backs he has so he can have a feel-good story to get all the senators to jump on board his cause. He doesn't have Tim's back. He doesn't have Andrea's back. He doesn't have Kevin's back. He doesn't have her back, her husband's back. He doesn't have my family's back. And I'm done. And the next time I come back here, it better be to sign the damn bill at the White House because I'm sick and tired of this bullshit.
Our last speaker, you're speaking? Mindy, got it. Thanks.
I know we are frustrated. We're all frustrated, angry, exasperated. This bill didn't pass soon enough to benefit my sister-in-arms, Dr. Kate Hendricks Thomas, because we buried her in Arlington 2 weeks ago. And it wasn't soon enough for Brielle, who was just here crying next to the podium because she lost her father. I think the worst part about this, though, is that I don't believe the vote yesterday represented the interests of the American people. The American people that I know are very anxious to ensure that our warriors are taken care of to the extent that they have earned. I am very grateful for the bipartisan support we have received on this bill, those who are willing to stand up to their peers and take another stance, and I'm trusting that those who want to tweak this bill will adjust it quickly and that it will pass before the Senate recess in August, as Senator Toomey has promised. Senator Toomey, I heard you. You promised. I believe that's what the American people want, and more importantly, it's the right thing to do. We can't be so caught up in every detail that we miss the forest for the trees. And the point of this bill is to ensure veterans who are suffering and dying right now from toxic exposure are given the benefits they need as soon as possible. So many of our lawmakers want to do the right thing here, and it's important that we continue to enable those lawmakers who have veterans' needs closest to their hearts. Let's do the right thing.
Shane from DAV.
Good morning. I'm Shane Lerman, DAV Deputy National Legislative Director. And DAV is greatly disappointed by yesterday's vote. But hey, it's okay. It's okay. Because everybody is saying, well, it's inevitable. Well, we're going to pass the PACT Act. It's inevitable. You know what else is inevitable? Veterans suffering and dying without access to health care and benefits. That is also inevitable. For example, there's a Vietnam veteran in Indiana right now who had an appeal with a veterans law judge in front of the Board of Veterans Appeals for access to benefits based on his Agent Orange exposure in Guam, which is a part of the PACT Act. The judge agreed to stay that case for 60 days so the PACT Act could pass. Well, guess what? We're now beyond that. So what did we just say? We just said, oh, it's okay. Another Vietnam veteran, another comrade in arms is going to be delayed access. That may save his life. But that's all right, because it's inevitable that it's eventually going to pass. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. How many more delays? How many more deaths? How many more suffering veterans just to be able to wake up in the morning and not hurt, to be able to actually sleep at night, to be able to breathe without suffering? Enough is enough. Stop the delays.
Well said.
The PACT Act must be passed now before Congress leaves town for their recess, their vacation. Let's call it their vacation. We must pass it now. Thank you.
Jon Stewart.
So ain't this a bitch?
Yeah.
Ain't this a bitch? America's heroes who fought in our wars, outside sweating their asses off, with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these motherfuckers sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet? Do we see that these aren't heroes? These are men and women, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers that we just let stand outside in the heat when they can't breathe. I'm going to read you something. This is beautiful. I'm going to read you something beautiful. You know what? I said a curse word, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. Let me say something beautiful. This is a tweet from Senator Rick Scott of Florida from yesterday. It's beautiful. And I'm sorry about the cursing, and let me say something beautiful to make it up to you. I was honored to join the USO today and make care packages for our brave military members in gratitude of their sacrifice and service to our nation. And there's a beautiful picture. I wish you could see it. He's standing with a little package. Did you get the package? I think it has M&Ms in it and some cookies and some moist towelettes. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what to say. I've been coming down here 10, 15 years. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Christina Keene will tell you from VFW. She sat in an office with Mitch McConnell and a war veteran from Kentucky, and he looked that man in the eyes and he said, we'll get it done. And he lied to him. Because Mitch McConnell yesterday flipped. I'm used to the lies. I'm used to the hypocrisy. Senator Pat Toomey won't take a meeting with the veterans groups. Sends out his chief of staff. I'm used to the cowardice. I've been here a long time. Senate's where accountability goes to die. These people don't care. They're never losing their jobs. They're never losing their health care. Pat Toomey didn't lose his job. He's walking away. God knows what kind of pot of gold he's stepping into to lobby this government to shit on more people. I'm used to all of it, but I am not used to the cruelty. They passed it. June 16th, they passed the PACT Act. 84-14. You don't even see those scores in the Senate anymore. They passed it. Every one of these individuals that has been fighting for years, standing on the shoulders of Vietnam veterans who have been fighting for years, standing on the shoulders of Persian Gulf War veterans fighting for years, Desert Storm veterans, to just get the health care and benefits that they earned from their service. And I don't care if they were fighting for our freedom. I don't care if they were fighting for the flag. I don't care if they were fighting because they wanted to get out of a drug treatment center or it was jail or the army. I don't give a shit. They lived up to their oath. And yesterday, they spit on it in abject cruelty. These people thought they could finally breathe. You think their struggles end because the PACT Act passes? All it means is they don't have to decide between their cancer drugs and their house. Their struggle continues.
This bill does a lot more than just give us health care.
Gives them health care, gives them benefits, lets them live.
Keeps veterans from going homeless, keeps veterans from becoming addicts, keeps veterans from committing suicide.
Senator Toomey's not going to hear that because he won't sit down with this man. Because he is a fucking coward. You hear me? A coward. And like I say, I'm used to it. But this type of cruelty on those that we say we hold up as our most valued Americans, then what are we? Pat Toomey stood up there, Patriot Pat Toomey, excuse me, I'm sorry. I want to give him his propers. I want to make sure that I give him his propers. Patriot Pat Toomey stood on the floor and said, this is a slush fund. They're going to use $400 billion to spend on whatever they want. That's nonsense. I call bullshit. This isn't a slush fund. You know what's a slush fund? The OCO, the Overseas Contingency Operations Fund, $60 billion, $70 billion every year on top of $500 billion, $600 billion, $700 billion of a defense budget. That's a slush fund, unaccountable, no guardrails. Did Pat Toomey stand up and say, this is irresponsible, the guardrails? No, not one of them did. They vote for it year after year after year. You don't support the troops, you support the war machine. That's all you care about.
He personally signed the proclamation to send me to war.
Boy, they haven't met a war they won't sign up for, and they haven't met a veteran they won't screw over. What the fuck are we?
Barbaric.
It's barbaric.
And now they're going to go away. Pat Toomey says, I've got veterans groups behind me. I call bullshit. These are the veterans groups. VFW, American Legion, IAVA, Wounded Warriors, DAV, AMVETS. They're all here. This is the veterans community, Senator. They don't stand behind you. In fact, you won't let them stand in front of you. Cowards, all of them. Cowards, all of them. And now they say, well, this will get done maybe on the after we get back from our summer recess, maybe during the lame duck, because they're on Senate time. Do you understand? You live around here. Senate time is ridiculous. These motherfuckers live to 200. They're tortoises. They live forever, and they never lose their jobs, and they never lose their benefits, and they never lose all those things. Well, they're not on Senate time. They're on human time, cancer time. Don't you have families? Don't you have people who are deciding how to live their last moments? I know some of them. They've been down here advocating with us. They spent their remaining time advocating so that other soldiers didn't have to face the indignities and the depravity and the desperation that they faced. And none of them will hear it. And none of them care. Except to tweet. Boy, they'll tweet it. Can't wait to see what they come up with on Veterans Day, on Memorial Day. Well, this is the reality of it. I honestly don't even know what to say anymore, but we need your help because we're not leaving. These people cannot go away. I don't know if you know this. You know, obviously I'm not a military expert. I didn't serve in the military, but from what I understand, you're not allowed to just leave your post when the mission isn't completed. Apparently you take an oath. You swear an oath, and you can't leave. But these folks can leave because they're on Senate time. Go ahead, go home, spend time with your families, because these people can't do it anymore. So they can't leave until this gets done. Because these people will not give up, they will not give in, and they will not relent. This is an embarrassment to the Senate, to the country, to the founders, and all that they profess to hold dear. And if this is America first, then America is fucked.
Thank you. Any on-topic questions? I think everyone here needs to be heard by every single one of the senators that changed their votes. I hope we can have an incessant and increased lobbying effort to every single office, because this is an outrage. It's unacceptable and it cannot stand. And we just need to fight until it gets done. And we just have to keep advocating and keep pushing. And I'm going to go to the floor and ask unanimous consent as many times as I need to get this back on the floor.
Today?
Yeah. If I can get floor time, I will. Yeah.
Has Senator Schumer said when he would put a cloture vote?
We just have to push. We need the votes. We need 25 people to change their minds. And so the only way they change their minds is if everyone here is heard. So we need to increase our lobbying effort. We need to increase our voices, the volume of our voices, and the effectiveness of our voices. We must change those 25 votes back.
Did Republicans say that they changed their votes
They
on this
didn't
because
tell
of the
anybody.
Schumer?
It came out of nowhere. It was total bullshit. We have to make sure they hear this and know this, and then we have to keep calling the vote.
I think it was in retaliation to the Schumer
I
Mansion
don't think
deal?
so. It was before it.